Hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So I'm here today to do my December wrap-up as well discuss a couple books I plan to read in January so far. So yeah, let's get started. And as you saw from the thumbnail, I read about 9 books. I happened just to coincidentally read a bunch of fast-paced books. So, yeah, it wasn't intentional, so yeah. Let's get started with the first book I finished in December, which was The Lost Village by Camilla Stan, and this was translated by Alexandria Fleming. And this is about documentary filmmaker Alice Lansted has been obsessed with the vanishing residents of an old mining town dubbed the Lost Village since she was a little girl. In 1959, her grandmother's entire family disappeared in a mysterious tragedy, and ever since, the unanswered questions surrounding the only 2 people who were left. A woman stoned to death in the town center and an abandoned newborn have plagued her. She's gathered a small pool of friends in the remote village to make a film about what really happened. But there will be no turning back. Long after they've set up camp, strange things begin to happen. Equipment is destroyed. People go missing. As doubt breeds fear and their minds begin to crack, one thing becomes startlingly clear to Alice. They are not alone. So yeah, with this one we see, oh my god, Alice and I guess her team as they explore the village, and we also get, I guess, a past timeline of the events that occurred leading up to the villagers disappearing. How it seems to have really been started by this charismatic pastor who comes to the village and draws in the young people with his charm and looks and makes them believe his words and interpretation of the Bible. And it's like the way these people appear, it just seemed very almost like a cult. And in the present timeline, weird things start to occur when the group comes to the village, and seeing people and hearing things that shouldn't be there, and how it is causing tension which already exists in the group. And there was one thing I didn't really understand. It's this: Alice had to, I guess, take on an old friend of hers named Emmy, who abandoned Alice when she was going through a dark time in her life, and Emmy, for some reason, we only get Alice's POV, but Emmy just seems to be treating Alice quite coldly. And it's like as if the reason for the dissolve of their friendship is Emmy not wanting to be there for Alice. Like, if that's really the reason, or I don't know, I just didn't really understand that. And I did like, however, how people in their family's history with the village come into play with Alice and her grandmother and the grandmother's family, because we also do get letters sent from the grandmother's sister to the grandmother and whatnot. And one of the people on this team is the, I guess, the relative of the baby that was found. So we do get her perspective as well. How it seems like her mother just doesn't want to have anything to do with this, as she just wants it to not be associated with it. So I did find this interesting, and overall I guess had a fun time with this, I guess, and I gave it 4 stars. Now the next book I finished in December was The Story of a New Name by Elena Ferrante. And this was, if I can find the translator, this was translated by Anne Goldstein, and This follows the story of these two girls named Lila and Lena, who grew up in a neighborhood in Naples as they're just trying to get by in life. And this is the second book in the Neapolitan novels. The first book was My Brilliant Friend, but we do see Lila and Elena, who come from a similar place, how I guess their paths in life kind of diverge, with Lila being a wife and a mother and that whole thing, while Elena is given the opportunity to continue on in her education, and we see her go to university. And with this one, I did like how there seems to be like a pattern, I would say, of being like their parents in how the fathers treated the mothers, and that cycle this seems to be continuing in this generation because that is what they know. And we see how Elena, she's almost separated from Lila due to her going to school and being surrounded by people who want to talk about intelligence and stuff, and how Lila tries to sabotage Elena's happiness, and how Elena just wants and probably should stop being friends with Lila, but she can't help but stay in her shadow like when they were younger. And there are expectations placed on Lila due to her marriage and how she is unable to meet them, and it's causing people to spread rumors and think negatively about her, and how Lila, I guess, ends up in this situation that this affects her life negatively. So yeah, overall I did find this interesting, and yeah, I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I was able to finish was The Night Guest by Helder Dorter, and this was translated by Mary Robinette. Oh, and I'm so sorry if I butchered either of those names. But this is about Aidan, who is in yet another doctor's office. She knows her constant fatigue is a sign that something's not right, but physicians dismiss her symptoms and blood tests don't reveal any cause. When she talks to friends and family about it, the refrain is the same: have you tried eating better, exercising more, establishing a nighttime routine? She tries to follow their advice, buying everything from vitamins to sleeping pills to step counting watch, but nothing helps. Until one night Aidan falls asleep with the watch on and wakes up to find she's walked over 40,000 steps in a night. What is happening when she's asleep? Why is she waking up with increasingly disturbing injuries, and why won't anyone believe her? And with this one, this was quite fast, as with some pages there would be like, on one page there would be like maybe 3-4 words, and then on another page nothing, and on the next page it would repeat itself. So this was quite fast and quite, I guess, interesting. And we do see how people, especially women, aren't taken seriously when they have concerns for their health, and how there is a problem but there seems to be no answers. And it seems like with this, the main character, she did have a sister who died, and her mother expected her, or forced her, it seems like, to take her sister's place and take on her sister's goals, and how that affected her. And she was content but not happy, especially with her parents, who did have this expectation on her, and really just didn't seem to respect the fact she's vegetarian. So yeah, I'm not gonna say more than that because this is quite a short book, but it was quite engrossing, I would say, and I didn't like how fast paced it was. And through, I did wish for more explanation about like what was going on, but it kind of makes sense on like why it was vague, I would say. So I don't know if that was too much to say considering the length, but I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I was able to finish was Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, and this is about on a dark wet evening in Dublin, scientist and mother of four Alice Stack answers her front door to find the GNSB on her step. Two officers from Ireland's newly formed secret police are here to interrogate her husband, a trade unionist. Ireland is falling apart, caught in the grip of a government turning toward tyranny, as the life she knows and the ones she loves disappear before her eyes. Alice must contend with the dystopian logic of this new unraveling Ireland, and how far will she go to save her family? And what, or who, is she willing to leave behind? And with this one, I did like how it didn't, like it's a weird word to say, but I did find it interesting, I guess, how some people just seem to be accepting this new reality while others won't or aren't able to, and how those who refuse to accept this try to fight their oppressors. And how it creates, I guess, an unknown when people aren't able to communicate or are prevented to, like, what has happened to their loved ones. Are they still in prison? Have they been tortured? Have they been killed? And how people, they have this opportunity to leave but don't take it as this is their home and they can bear to leave it. How this is the only home they've ever known, and how life is changing and despite its effect in daily lives with barricades being risen and food rations. And we do see how this affect people mentally, with Alicia's daughter Molly falling into depression, one of her sons acting out and talking about Mormon. I don't know, Alice pretending her husband is there in some form, like talking to him, and overall this was quite interesting. And honestly, this might be dystopian, but it felt so real that I thought it was real for a second. So I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and I don't know why I say enjoy, because sometimes it feels like the word enjoy is the wrong sort of word to use, but I don't know. And the next book I was able to finish is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, and this was translated by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. And this is about, in a remote Polish village, Jana Duzako, an eccentric woman in her 60s, recounts the events surrounding the disappearance of her 2 dogs. She is reclusive, preferring the company of animals to people. She's unconventional, believing in the stars, and she is fond of the poetry of William Blake, from whose work the title of the book is taken. The members of a local hunting club are found murdered. Duzeko becomes involved in the investigation. By no means an unconventional crime story, this essential thriller by the Nobel Prize in Literature laureate offers thought-provoking ideas on our perceptions of madness, injustice against marginalized people, animal rights, the hypocrisy of traditional religion, belief in predestination, and caused a genuine political uproar in Poland. And with this one, I did love our main character, how she just gave people nicknames she thought suited them better, and her strong belief in astrology and how she thinks like events can be foreseen in the stars. Like, she asks everyone she meets, so what day were you born and what time were you born? Just to get a good sense of that. And I did enjoy that, and I enjoyed how, I guess, her hatred of hunters for killing animals and thinking that off with animals getting retribution, and how the narrator does. She wants the community to stop hunting, which people won't do, as it's really a part of life in the community, and people view it as a tradition and something they have always done. They're not willing to change or give up something that's this tradition to them, and we see how she reacts to that. And and overall, I did like it, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished was If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha. And this is about Kairoi, who is an electrically beautiful woman with a hard-won job at a woman salon, an exclusive underground bar where she entertains businessmen while they drink. For she prides herself on her cold, clear-eyed approach to life. An impulsive mistake threatens her livelihood. Karui's roommate, Maho, is a talented artist who grew up in an orphanage but won a scholarship to study art in New York. Returning to Korea after college, she finds herself in a precarious relationship with the heir to one of Korea's biggest conglomerates. Down the hall in their building lives Ara, a hairstylist whose two preoccupations sustain her: an obsession with a boy band pop star and a best friend who is saving up for the extreme plastic surgery that she hopes will change her life. And Wana, one floor below, is a newlywed trying to have a baby, and who she and her husband have no idea how they can afford to raise it in Korea's brutal economy. Together, their stories tell a gripping tale at once unfamiliar and unmistakably universal, in which their tentative friendships may turn out to be the thing that ultimately saves them. And with this one, I did find it interesting to see the importance of where you're from in regards to which area of Seoul you lived in, if it was well known or if it was the outskirts, how people put importance to which school you went to, and if they considered it prestigious enough when it comes to social circles and people looking down on you if you went to a standard school or lived in an area that wasn't considered influential. And I did like each of these women's plot line. However, I would forget which character the storyline belonged to without reading the a blurb or the chapter title. And the women, I don't know, they just didn't really stand out enough for me, and maybe that is the point. They're just trying to survive and be there for society. And at times things just did not feel fully fleshed out, and we didn't see the outcomes of what the characters were planning. As one character talked about ensuring she wasn't left with nothing when she ended her relationship, and we didn't see the actual plan. So I did like how the girls came together to be there for one another, even though they are in different stages of their lives. But yeah, I think the fact I just didn't feel fully connected to these characters just affected the book for me, and I did give this 3 stars. And the next book I finished was Elias Emma by Ava Glass. And this is about a newly minted secret agent. Emma Makepeace has barely graduated from basic training when she gets the call for her first major assignment. Transport an important asset, the handsome son of Russian dissidents, across London without being spotted or killed. With London's famous Ring of Steel hacked by the Russian government, the two must cross the city without being seen by the hundreds of thousands of CCTV cameras that document every inch of the city streets. Buses, subways, cars, and trains are out of the question. Traveling on foot and operating without phones or bank cards, which could reveal their location, they have 12 hours to make it to safety. This will take all of Emma's skills of disguise and subterfuge. And this one wrong move will get her and her charge killed. And I just had a fun time reading how these two were trying to get across London without being spotted on cameras, and how plans just fall apart, leading Emma to think on the spot. And it was also interesting just to read on what motivated her to join this company, and her own history of climbing the wings and getting where she wanted to be, and yeah, just seeing other people's motivations for doing what they were doing. And yeah, I just had a fun time with this, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in December was Maurice by E.M. Foister. And this is set in the elegant Edwardian world of Cambridge, undergraduate life. This story by master novelist introduces us to Maurice Hall when he is 14. We follow him through a public school in Cambridge and into his father's firm. In a highly structured society, Maurice is a conventional young man in almost every way, except that he is homosexual. And we see how with this there's, expectations from society to marry someone of the opposite sex and have children, and how Maurice, he just kind of imagine that life for him, and we see as he's going through these different relationships and how it affects him, how his own relationship to society seems to be affected as he is, trying to go down a more conventional route that is expected of him. And it is interesting how one character who he was close with, who was quite guarded when they see the world, it made them realize who they truly are and what they truly believe, and how seeing the world, it leads to the truth that society and life, what society and life are really like, instead of what they want, and how Maurice, he does try to be conventional, like I already mentioned. So yeah, overall, I did enjoy this, and I give it 4 stars. And I should also say that I did like how Maurice was this, in the end he just accepted himself. I did like that a lot. And finally, I'm so done with this. This is the most amount of books I've reviewed in one video. But the last book I finished in December was In the Woods by Tana French, and this is about these 3 children leave their small Dublin neighborhood to play in the surrounding woods. Hours later, their mother's calls go unanswered. When the police arrive, they find only one of the children gripping a tree trunk in terror, wearing blood-filled sneakers and unable to recall a single detail of the previous hours. 20 years later, Detective Rob Wine, the farm boy who has kept his past a secret, and his partner, Cassie Maddox, investigate the murder of a 12-year-old girl in the same woods. Now with only snippets of long-buried memories to guide him, Ryan has the chance to uncover both the mystery and the case before him, and that of his own shadowy past. And with this one, I did really love the friendship between Rob and Cassie, and how they're like siblings and can rely and trust one another to have each other's backs. And it was also interesting seeing how this case, it affected all of them mentally, but it seems like it affected Rob the most, and it does seem to be all-consuming for him and for everyone, but especially him because of his history and how it seems to be unlocking memories that have been locked when whatever happened in those woods 20 years prior happened. And yeah, overall, I did like the most part of this. I want to say something, but that would be a kind of major spoiler. That would be quite a spoiler, so I'm not gonna say it. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Now, that is everything I read in December and what I plan to read in January so far. Everything I read in January will be in my January wrap-up. But what I'm planning to start is Blue Sisters by Coco Mellers. And this is about the 3 Blue Sisters are exponential and exponentially different. Avery, the eldest and a recovering heroin addict turned straight-laced lawyer, lives with her life in London. Bonnie, a former boxer, works as a bouncer in Los Angeles following a devastating defeat. And Lucky, the youngest, models in Paris while trying to outrun her hard-partying Grace. They also had a 4th sister, Nikki, whose unexpected death left the family reeling. A year later, as they each navigate grief, addiction, and ambition, they find they must return to New York to stop the sale of the apartment they were raised in. But coming home is never as easy as it seems, as the sisters reckon with the disappointments of their childhood and the loss of the only person who held them together. they realized that the greatest secrets they've been keeping might not have been from one another but from themselves. I'm excited for that. I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein at the end of last year. Enjoyed it. And the next book I plan to read after that is He Who Drowned the World, and this is the sequel to She Who Became the Sun. And I'm just gonna give the synopsis from what I remember of She Who Became the Sun, which is about this woman who takes her brother's place in this monk place, and her just navigating through it. So yeah, that was probably a horrible synopsis. I'll probably do better in my January wrap up, but yeah. Now, that is everything I read in December and what I plan to read in January so far. And yeah, that's it for this video. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below telling me what you've been reading recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel. And if you want to follow me on any social media, then all those links are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post a video.